Yo, what's up guys? We got the first collab notification on which units and a bunch of the dungeons that they're gonna do. So just gonna walk you through a bunch of interesting things in there. They look pretty strong, but we have said that before where things on paper look pretty strong, but then they start messing up with like Res Awakening, res leader skills, bad multipliers, blah blah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it is still a bit in the mid if it's going to be actual good or not. But so far it looks pretty decent. So we will have the main four that also pretty much most people did expect. We have one of the Hashiras, which is also the free net 5. And he seems pretty strong. Like a lot of people gave him resemblance to, or like a similarity towards Windy. It is definitely a pretty interesting one. So we have, well, I'm going to butcher names, let me tell you that much. We have Yome, Zenitsu, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Inosuke. Probably I butcher those names. So they first talk a bit about like, okay, we had a great year. Like they totally did not listen to what was going on in the community the last few days, but probably they even if they would have had something noticed, they wouldn't even mention it. But I would say the units look pretty dope for art style. Also, you see some of like how they look in game later and looks pretty good. So they talk a bit about like backstory of Demon Slayer. If you don't know anything about Demon Slayer and you don't really want to start like a full new anime, I can recommend to check out this movie, the Mugen Train. It's definitely a movie that was liked by a lot of people that normally don't even watch anime. So if you want to watch something about this, if you have no clue about it whatsoever, I can highly recommend try to watch like the Mugen Train. Probably mispronounced that even as well. But that is a very enjoyable movie without having to like actual super... You have to go super hard into all of that right there. So we have Gyome as a net 5. And he will be available through an event. So that does also mean that you can later pick it up by coins. And what by coins I mean, if you go to ancient coins and then you go all the way to the right, monster pieces, this is where you can pick up like the Garral, this is where you can pick up the Sukuna, this is where you can pick up all of those units. This unit is that interesting that you might, especially if you're a siege main, might want to be saving those coins to get multiple duplicates off, because he has very much Windy feeling. But didn't even talk about the skills yet, so let's talk about it. So first hit, destroy enemy max HP by the damage dealt. This attack will deal more damage according to your defense. So it's a defense scaling hit that already destroys HP, so you don't have to put destroy on the unit itself. You can just go for a revenge set with violent. Then we have Stone Skin, attack the enemy 4 times, dealing damage once again proportional to your defense. So it's a consistent kit. That's where we see a lot of kits being weak for like previous units where they have scaling of HP on the S2 and S3, but scaling on attack on skill 1 or defense on S2, S3. And then attack on 1, such as the Gojos, and then it just becomes a lot weaker already. This is at least, it's like death scaling, so I like that. Also with each hit, remove beneficial effects with 25% chance and provoking them. So that's pretty, it is a one-turn provoke, I would assume, otherwise it would state that there's more. But 4 hits, probably the activation rate goes up a little bit. But then we also have the passive. Becomes immune to defense decreasing, so no death break. Decrease the attack power of the target for 1 turn when attacking the enemy. Does not specifically state on your turn. Often when these things do not work on revenge, they state on your turn. So this is definitely a unit you could run on via revenge. You still have to destroy from skill 1 in there. And probably multi-hitting on additional damage artifacts. You don't even have to go crit rate, crit damage for it. This is definitely looking very much a Windy-like unit, which in the end was for pretty much years on out one of the strongest net 4s in the game. At least for Siege, of course. For Siege mains, you might want to be holding on these points for a little bit. This will also have 0 on it. Also, therefore, for the Gyoma, there's not going to be any of the other elements. But then we have the elements for, or at least the monsters for Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, Zenitsu. Those will be, once again, like those combined 4-star and 5-star families. So by this, we only see the 5-star, so we have no clue if which ones are going to be the 4-stars. There's probably one of them is going to be having like a 4 and 5-star dark. That mostly happens. Those are sometimes a bit usable, but the other ones... Yeah, most of the net 4s are kind of like the skill ups for the net 5s anyway. So they're kind of easy-ish to skill up. I noticed that with the previous collabs, like if you do summon enough mystical scrolls in the first place, you got enough of the 4-stars that you can pretty much skill up like the whole family with just those. But let's see. Tanjiro first. Light attack type. We're not gonna get this one that easily. Light units in general are pretty hard to get. First skill stance. Attack the enemy, preventing them from receiving beneficial effects for 2 turns with a 30 chance. Increase the damage by 50% if all your skills are on cooldown. Interesting mechanic with that last part. I haven't seen any of that before, that another skill does more damage because something else is on cooldown, and that's actually his whole kit. I'm also curious to see if that's a whole Tanjiro thing, that all of them are going to be like that, because in the end, they will all share the same skill 1, which is a bit interesting. I am once again hoping for the fire version to be useful in SF Abyss Heart, because SF Abyss Heart is still a Zoki dungeon. If we already start with preventing the target from receiving beneficial effects on a skill 1, I already have slight hopes, because this probably, the 30% mostly goes up to like 50-ish or so. But let's see, skill 2 attacks the enemy that ignores defense. Increase your attack bar by 50% when attacked by an enemy when your flash dance is cooldown. Okay, so the moment, okay, that's your nuke skill. Kind of a nuke skill. Most of the time you want to have a passive next to a skill 2 that is nuking. We see that with the Water Siri, we see that with the Sonya, we see that with a bunch of units that have skill 2 that is nuking. But it is interesting that you instantly get 50 bar for every time that you're hit by an enemy while this skill's on cooldown. That's a lot of cycling going in. So definitely more of a bruiser style, which can still hit hard on that. Skill 3, attack all enemies, leave branding for 2 turns, recover your HP by 10% when attacked by an enemy when this is on cooldown. Wow. The fun thing is that both skills technically have a passive. So technically you would have 2 passives, while he also has full activation skills. Okay, doesn't look bad. If that's something that's more for the whole family, I can definitely see a few strong ones in there. Of course, it does matter. What are the multipliers? He's going to get crit awakening, speed awakening, or are they going to throw resistance awakening in because the skill sounds strong? And most of the time when something sounds strong, it's like, resistance awakening. That kind of nonsense. So, sounds interesting. Nezuko. First hit, we have decreased the attack power for 2 turns, 20 or 35 chance. Well, that will go up to 50, so that's definitely a good amount of hitting that. Not the most of interesting skill ones, but sure. It is okay for multi-hits. If we see multi-hits here, multi-hits there. Attack the enemy 2 times. First hit blocks from removing harmful effects. Okay. Sounds something along the lines for the team that is with the Tomoe, Layla, and those kind of things. With a 50% chance, second hit absorbs the attack bar with a 50. Okay, let's say that this goes up to like 75-ish. That is not bad. It's still not really a guaranteed land, because the first hit does something, the second hit does something else. So we have that, but that is just the S2. Skill 3 is attack the enemy to stun for 1 turn, block them from receiving harmful effects for 2 turns, and then decrease their attack bar for 50. Ooh, that's a loaded kit though. That is actually a pretty loaded kit. So against things that tend to cleanse, that's pretty loaded. That seems like Tomoe, but I would say it seems like Tomoe, but even better if you don't already have a lot of debuffs on the enemy, so you don't really have that much to spread and that kind of stuff. So I like that. That's a nice one. Once again, it is very important what kind of lead does she have, what kind of like if you would throw like an arena speed lead 24 at this, it's incredibly strong. Then she really gives Tomoe some run for her money, but if she is just something else, then it's not. That's kind of the main thing. In Inosuke, we have the skill 1 coming through, attack for a 30% stun chance. If this goes up, that is a pretty decent stun amount for a skill 1. Skill 2 is we attack the enemy, decrease defense for 2 turns with an 80 chance. Maybe goes up to a 90 to 100, mostly when it's something like 80. This skill won't land as a glancing hit, so it can miss crits, but it will never glance. That's the same thing as a Laika. 100 crit rate Laika can still miss crit, but at least it won't glance. And then we have the third skill, remove all beneficial effects from all enemies and gain a turn instantly. Okay, a kind of a weird combination. I feel like that this is the weakest one from the ones I've read so far. Not necessarily because of the individual skills being weird, but the kit together being weird. Because you AoE strip to get an instant turn to do what? Single target death break? Like if that was an AoE death break, then we'd be talking. But now you get an instant turn to death break-ish? I don't know. Or is this your bruiser that can also on not necessarily turn 1 can strip things, but in later turn strip things? Could be a thing. I don't know. Would this be your kind of Theomars-ish, which doesn't care about... Because the skill 1, skill 2 kind of feel Theomars-ish style, But then your Team Mars doesn't have a passive, but he can strip and gain an instant turn to cycle back into the Pierce skill. Could be something, could be something. Zenitsu, this is the one that a lot of people were talking about on Reddit, and also what I've seen in Discords, that this one is supposedly the strong and nasty one. It is a Dark 5 once again, but at least for the skill ones are always consistent between the whole family. So we have attacks the enemy, decrease the defense for 2 turns with a 50 chance. The damage is according to your attack speed, so that is definitely already an interesting one. Once again, if they have speed leads and speed awakenings, they become very strong. If they don't, And we also have increase your attack speed for 2 turns, so you have already an attack speed on yourself while you're speed scaling, and this skill is also speed scaling. That's good. It's 6 random enemies. Not that great for Arena, but seems better for Siege then. And then while attacking, stunning the target with a 30% chance. Okay. Gains immunity in ability effects, additional increase extra damage for your crit rate. I guess 100% crit rate unit nevertheless then. Inflict 1 continuous damage for each hits that land as a critical. Wow, that's actually pretty the style, especially with the skill 2 hitting 6 times. That is 6 debuffs of 1 turn. That's a lot of debuffs right there. But then he also has a 4th skill, which is interesting. Attacks the enemy with an attack that always lands attribute advantage, ignores death resistance. If you have attacked an enemy below 30%, deals additional 30% of the target's max HP, 10% if it's a boss, and it can be used twice per skill and increases your attack bar by 50 after using the skill. AKA, if anything that's below 30% HP will insta die. Only thing is, a core mechanic of Summoner's War, which is really, bad for this, you don't see the percentages of someone's HP. Like, is this 29%? Is this 31%? Is it 28%? Is it 30 exactly? You don't know. So that is the only bad part that I would give to this skill. Sure, if something is like 20, it's pretty noticeable. But yeah, that is maybe a little bit the difficulty about this. But in general, looks like a pretty loaded kit. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at guild leads over here. I would say maybe arena leads over here. I am expecting general leads for this one. So just like overall leads. And this one, I'm not 100% sure. But that is my expectation. We're going to see later if I'm right. So I'm expecting guild leads, arena leads, general leads. And this one, maybe this is going to be the weird one where it's like elemental leads. So every element, it does the same thing. And for this one, wouldn't be surprised if they just give it like a defense lead itself as well. Those are my expectations. We're going to check afterward if I was right or not. So yeah, definitely they're talking about a bunch of the skills being interesting, but yeah, I think it looks cool. Then they're going to look more closely at the events. So first of all, we are going to have the building. Yep, we always have that. So we have 4 things in there. Hashira Training, we have the check-in, we have mini-games, and then some of the quests. Oh, those quests are always slightly annoying. It's like you have to start doing, it's like, oh, farm Necro. It's like, I normally never farm Necro. Farm Dragons. I normally don't even have a Dragon Team route. That kind of stuff. Then we also have a bunch of mini-games. This is just probably one of those simple mini-games. Like, you have to pick up one item, you have to dodge the other item, you walk around, like, up and down, that kind of stuff. It's just the very simple things. Like, I read a little bit about it. This one is also, like, you have to do jumps or double jumps or triple jumps or something like that to catch, like, the rise and, like, make sure that you stay on the pulse and that kind of stuff. So that's fine. It is also funny where they say, like, this one, the sprint training is going to be there right away. The obstacle training is going to be for late January. So that would be probably if this patch hits on the 9th, the other patch should probably hit on the 23rd. And then we also have the swimming one, which is scheduled for January. So that would probably, so we were talking about the 9th, 23rd. Then it's probably on the 6th. That's something that I do expect for those patches to be related around those times. And then we have some of the rewards. You do get a scroll from it, but that will be in the 4th week. So in that case, we would already be talking on the 6th of February before you can get that. Does also mean that this whole thing is running for at least 2 months, which is good. That also for the people that used all of their scrolls in Christmas, which I think everyone did, you do have time to summon those units once again. So that's definitely the thing in there. Then we also have the Hashira Training, and I think the Hashira Training is very related towards what we had before with the AC Collab and also the Witcher collab, where you had like this dungeon and you made choices of which route you're going, and based on that you can select like the difficulty and those kind of things. I'm actually not sure which guys are those. Okay, this guy is looking pretty badass. He gives me the vibes, probably more people have said that before, of Itsugaya Toshiro. He kind of, I guess, similar vibes, right? It can be just me. Yeah, he's pretty cool looking. Now we have the Serpent one. Serpent one is, oh, that's the guy with the weird smile, but it's just like bandages. It looks like a smile. And Mist is this one. Okay, pretty cool characters. I would have rather seen Rengoku, and the reason for that is because he got pretty famous through the movie that they made. I think that from the Hashiras, this is the most famous one because people started liking him through the movie that I also mentioned at the start. So would have been cool if they put him in, but apparently they went for the other three, which is still fine. It's still fine. They're still cool looking. It is cool that they at least included a few others as well, rather than just saying like, okay, these are the units. We don't have anyone else that we are like really kind of including in this. It looks very different than the AC collab dungeon, but I'm pretty sure the moment you start playing this, it's just kind of like the AC collab dungeon and Witching collab dungeon and those kind of things. You have the same mechanics that if something dies, you cannot use it again. But if you leave the battle when something just dies, you can use it again. The AC collab dungeon and the Witcher collab dungeon and all of those, I think JJK also, now JJK had the boss rush, that one was mirror difficult. But this one, most of the time it was very easy clearable, even on an account that was just 1 day old, by just using whatever support units you could use. So I don't expect this to be any difficult or anything. That's just like that. So, okay, yeah, they look cool. They definitely look cool. So then a bunch of skills. To be honest, does anyone remember the skills of any of the boss of the Witcher collab or the JJK collab or any of those? Because in the end, all of these things were that easy that you just one-tap them and then it's done. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be any more difficult, but I do expect this one not to be that difficult as well. They're, of course, also going to be putting another scroll in here, I assume. No, this is just a bunch of coins. I guess those coins we're probably going to get a shop, because currently we're also taking coins already, but we haven't seen anything yet where we can actually trade in those coins. They're also going to be putting in the trial of Ascension, so floor 50 of normal, you will be getting a scroll from there, which is always the good ones. They have the Master X rifle, bunch of collab special emotes. I would say the emotes from the collabs are mostly pretty funny. So those special check-ins, okay, this, yep. And then try out in arena. They actually tried this out for the JJK units as well, but that was at the time where the JJK units were really darn bad, like exceptionally bad. And then it was also like, oh yeah, we have the Fire Itadori that's guaranteed crits. Let's give him like 92 crit rate or something useless. So let's see if they paid a little bit more attention to their own units in this case, rather than slapping like complete random stuff at their units there. But at least it gives you a little bit of a way to try out your units, but you can only use them in rifle battles, whereas we're used to one-shotting everything in rifle battles. So can you actually give like a proper testing to a unit over here? Not really, not really. So Collab is actually running for a good 2 months, so January 9th until March 10th. It is also January 9th PST, so that means American West Coast time zone. So I wouldn't be surprised if this patch hits on the 10th for a bunch of people. And the reason for that is also another thing that's kind of gave that away is that the Chinese version, and I think most of the Asian versions, are saying on the 10th. And because of them saying on the 10th, it could be that if you have all the way in the West, it's still the 9th. But it is, if it's like midnight on the 9th or just a few hours before midnight, it is during daytime in Korea and China. So I would expect this patch to hit probably on the 10th for Europe rather than on the 9th. And then it will probably hit like early morning on the Friday. But that is my expectation by just simply seeing this thing being stated on the 10th. And as of recently, most of the patches are like European time, early morning, afternoon in Asia. And then it's kind of around midnight-ish for America, which would also make sense that, let's say they do it like 7 in the morning for Europe. Then it also does make sense that it's the 10th in Asia, it's the 9th in the US. And therefore, I do expect this patch to hit on the 10th of January around like early morning, 7, 8 a.m. That's kind of my expectation. Could be completely wrong on that, but that's just my expectation. So if you're not seeing any patches for European time on the 9th, it could be because of that. And then they show all of the scrolls where you can actually summon those from, plus Demon Slayer scrolls. And then also what kind of things are open at what times. Okay, that's fine. Some more special events. Yep, we do have a coupon as well. I will write that in case you're watching this video. I will write it down in the description as well. So yeah, in general, pretty nice stuff. The only thing that I haven't seen yet is that you can collect a bunch of coins. So I do expect like a coin shop. So there's definitely going to be more events than what we see over here. For the units in first look, they look pretty interesting. They look quite promising compared to some of the others that we have seen in previous collabs. Big question is, once again, leader skills, multipliers, cooldowns, anything like that. Awakenings, very important. So we're going to see if they're actually cool. I really hope that they finally are not too scared to adding units that actually have some proper power. Like, we have had too many units like, oh, cool new units. And then it's like, yeah, they were all shit again. I really do hope that they get a little bit better this time. Also, I hope that they're not going to be hella over buffed like Kaki level buffed. But yeah, we shall see. Somewhere in the middle. Maybe you should invite people to help you test your game. I don't know. Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching and hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.